Hello everybody and welcome back to Spacedock. I'm SOJOURN and I've been playing a lot of Helldivers 2 again since they had their big rebalance patch in September, and now another one as I was writing. Playing through the stages of the big chain of things to build the democratic space station in the lead up to Liberty Day on the 26th of October has made it really feel like a big cohesive thing is going on at the moment. Playing again after having stopped for a while and going through different games with different approaches to things has really got me to appreciate how well everything in Helldivers is designed. It's all very authentic feeling. I say authentic rather than realistic because there's a lot that blatantly isn't realistic, but it still feels like it should work. And this is despite the foundation of satire the game's setting is built upon, which we'll come back to later, but bear it in mind for now. Since this is Spacedock, of course we have to start with a look at the spaceship, the Super Destroyer, which is magnifique. It's an aesthetically pleasing shape with cool elements like the little upward nubbins on the twin prow, the underslung bridge, and the outboard engine nacelles with Halo-esque armor plates, or perhaps radiators. But it's not like the design of the ship has gone for form over function. Quite the opposite, in fact. Its form and function are one and the same, to the point where you can suss out the Super Destroyer's role and purpose without any context. It's easy to see that it's meant to be raining down hell from above. And rain hell it does, whether it's with all those weapons in front of the underslung bridge, or via the hell pods launched through it. And those hell pods are pretty cool since they're on this mad vending machine system that starts from the main bay, and nothing says disposable troops quite like sending them down to the battlefield on the same conveyor belt that dispenses weapons. This is hammered in even further with the equally mad cryopod carousel thing. Just thaw out a fresh batch, guys, we've got loads in the back. Another plus toward the Super Destroyer's design is that it's not too big. It avoids the usual sci-fi thing of being too big for its own sake like so many other franchises do. Instead, the ship genuinely feels like it's about the right size for what it is, a single craft for one Helldiver to operate and call fire support from, and to house the aircraft the Helldiver has at their disposal, the Eagle and Pelican. No, not those ones, these ones. The first of those is a little bit wacky with its downward-facing vertical stabilizer, but it's a striking shape to see when it swoops in to deliver its payload, so I can't fault it too much. This feature does make it the least traditional design of the bunch though. I wonder if this shape was made to fit into the hangar in such a way that both looked kinda cool, but left plenty of room to see other stuff around it. Also, how does a pilot get in? Its more sane, support-oriented counterpart, the Pelican, is a much more straightforward design. Well, except for the engines. There's a reason why personnel transports don't use downward-facing jets or rockets, and any Helldiver who wasn't quite paying attention to where they were standing at extraction will be made intimately aware of it. But it's okay to have engines like this because 1, it's funny, and 2, this thing is meant to be able to go from surface to orbit. Propellers just wouldn't be able to do that, though maybe something like that cool cutting-edge development HS VTOL thing could work, but the Pelican is fine. This sense of practicality and purpose carries over to the armor as well, especially the fantastic default designs. It generally seems to be what a person could actually wear, with buckles and straps in appropriate places, and nothing that looks like it would limit movement too much while still protecting the vitals. Most of the armor also deliberately avoids getting too sci-fi future-y as well, though there is the occasional helmet with some sort of VR tech or whatever instead of a visor. Overall though, these aren't too common and everything as a whole doesn't go out into Mass Effect-y sort of territory with a fully integrated bodysuit thing. Most of the time the armor plates are just that, armor strapped on over the top of a uniform. I don't know if this is driven by real-world experience, a desire to make something cosplayable, or something else, but it's all very good. I especially like the little hell pad on the wrist that's used for programming the stratagems and doing many other things. Seeing your diver actively using the map or typing when you are is a great little immersion touch. The one exception to the practicality is of course the capes. But they are cool, especially when they get shredded up in combat. I kinda wish we had some more form factor options though, but these concepts from Reddit aren't necessarily possible to add because they'd conflict with the armor that was never designed to work with them. The overall trend continues to the weapons, which are mostly really well designed. There's a thing here with video games where weapons end up being odd. It's not like a movie prop where it might be a real thing that can fire blanks stuffed into a casing, because you can just do anything in a game. If you're making a whole new weapon, it doesn't need to be functional at all. There doesn't need to be a proper route for ammunition to feed to the chamber or stuff like that. Helldivers manages to avoid that problem, having put in the effort to make things seem plausible. things do get wacky when you get into the weird energy weapons or incendiary variants of regular ammo weapons though, like the Breaker Incendiary, which has a fuel tank for some reason, or whatever the deal is with the plasma shotgun. Now naturally there aren't exactly real life handheld firearms that shoot plasma or lasers, so these weapons get a bit more out there and go for the vibes a lot of the time. But the laser weapons do have big ol' lenses. That's a massive plus because it's so rare to see fiction stick lenses on their lasers. And would you believe it, the trend of authenticity continues onto the enemy designs as well. The bugs are all just designed to be terrifying monsters. They were good in the first game, if a bit crustacean-y, but now they're horrifying creatures of teeth and claws and acid and armor. And the bigger ones are scary forces of nature with their sheer size. I was playing recently on Gakrux as part of the ongoing order chain and saw these trees being knocked over in the distance by a biotitan walking by. It was one of those super atmospheric moments that the game is just so very good at. The bots are the same. Well, they're not teeth and claws, but they are sinister in a sincere manner. It feels like a genuine attempt on their behalf to be scary and demoralizing to fight, which is most obvious with the Berserker. Having these towering, chainsaw-armed, skull-bearing, jagged metal machines run at you is always scary, even more so when they're there to flush you out of cover into the guns of their comrades. All these well-designed examples, the ship's armor, weapons and enemies, are all despite the obvious and hilarious satire in other parts of the game. I find this interesting because things like the potentially silly ship names and definitely silly TV adverts would lead you to believe that it's a silly game that doesn't take itself seriously whatsoever, but it just isn't. There's a lot less room for missing the satire when compared to its main inspiration, but it's also simultaneously more serious than it. It never really goes wacky with things like, say, Fallout would do. Sure, that's now become the identity of Fallout since Bethesda took over, but in many ways those elements do cheapen the experience. There's none of that in Helldivers. It expertly applies its jokes in ways that don't undermine the truly excellent moment-to-moment gameplay. There's nothing really that detracts from those naturally occurring cinematic moments that happen as you play. Not even the voice lines of the divers yelling amusingly about liberty or whatever manage that. They instead punctuate what's going on with a touch of levity without eroding the whole feeling of the game. And perhaps that is the core of what the game does best. It manages to take itself seriously while simultaneously taking itself very unseriously. That balance on a knife's edge is one of the reasons the game is so special. You can support Spacedock by joining our Patreon, where you can get our frigate and space fighter design reference books. Alternatively, you can support us directly through YouTube by becoming a channel member. Thanks to our supporters, and thank you for watching.